So when you're fishing in the estuary, is time of year very important? Do you like fishing in the spring or in the summer or fall even?
So striped bass, when they're born, I don't know how to phrase that, but when they hatch, if you will,
Yeah. Hmm.
essentially they stay in that estuary area for around 2 to 4 years. It's a little less prevalent the more north you go. That's really like a New Jersey, Maryland sort of thing. But you do get your holdover stripers that, whether they were born there or whether they stay
Hmm.
there all year round from the time they were born until they actually join that whole Atlantic migration.
Yeah.
Um, Earlier in the season, earlier in the hatch, that's when the most productive times are going to be in those estuaries.
Hmm.
Um, Personally, where I fish up in Maine,
Hmm.
several spots, always productive throughout the summer. Doesn't matter what time of year it is.
Hmm.
Again, it just comes back to structure and holding spots where fish are just because of the actual topography of the land, of the ground below, if you will.
Yeah. And so, okay, here's a question that I legitimately have, and I don't know if this is like a stupid question or not, but
No stupid
when
questions, man.
exactly. When the bass are they spawn in different rivers, and there are like the Hudson and the Chesapeake, and those are the main rivers that they spawn. But are
Yes.
there also fish spawning in like in the rivers around here? Like do they come here to
So
spawn or no?
that's a good question, and I'm not going to throw facts out there like I know, because I don't actually know the truth of that. I know
Hmm.
the majority of the spawning actually occurs, like you said, the Hudson, the Delaware, your Chesapeake Bay area, and
Yeah.
that's been like the whole kind of um, uproar right now with the ASMFC,
Hmm.
where the fish in the Chesapeake Bay, if they're 18 inches and over, we get to keep them and so forth. And it's like,
Hmm.
okay, well, if that fish is 18 inches, that's a 3-year-old fish. And
Yeah.
like I said before, fish don't start that whole Atlantic migratory movement and leave those estuaries until they're around 3 to 4 years old.
Hmm.
Um, so essentially, we're like plucking off these young fish that haven't left the estuary.
Hmm.
They're strictly feeding on what's in the estuaries and so forth.
Yeah.
And we're kind of killing off that beginning population if we're
Hmm.
if we're starting them at 18 inches.
Yeah.
Um, Especially with males, like males, a mature male is around 2 years old. Like that's when they start fertilization and so
Hmm.
forth. A female is not until around 6 to 9 years old, where they're swimming up the Chesapeake, they're laying the eggs are trickling down, the men are fertilizing and so forth. The males are
Yeah.
fertilizing.
Hmm.
Um, but again, like that 18-inch range when that fish is around 3 years old, like
Hmm.
that's going to be when they start to think about leaving the estuaries and moving up. I do not think that again, I can't even accurately say, because I've caught fish that were maybe 6 inches in Maine, and
Yeah.
I'm like, this thing is swimming down from the upper river
Yeah.
from a hatch. So I mean, I can't. Again, I'm not like a marine biologist in terms of that, but
Hmm.
have I caught little hatchling fish up north in
Hmm.
Maine? Absolutely.
Yeah. So that, yeah, I mean, that's something that I've thought a lot about because I even caught fish in the estuary really early, some of my first fish of the season. And I was like, these bass almost look like they're spawn like they're either laying eggs or something like in up in an estuary. And I was like, is it even possible that these things could be spawning in this river? And I mean
Right.
that so I didn't know that. Yeah.
Well, you think about it again, 18-inch fish, it's 3 years old by
Hmm.
that point. If you're catching a fish that's 1/3 the size of that, it's 6 inches sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um, it has to be. has to be one of those scenarios where it hatched right, right up
Hmm.
the, I don't want to say right up the channel, but
But
somewhere
yeah,
in that area.
exactly.